our 1997 batch alumnus, our Honorable Principal Dr. Sanjay Bokade, Vice Principal Dr. Sanjay Deshmukh sir, and all HODs. It is my honor to welcome you all to this fourth talk in Alumni Speak series organized by Department of Mechanical Engineering. Our today's speaker, Mr. Tarun, is an account executive and global portfolio leader at Capgemini, Atlanta, USA. He owns a P&L and is responsible for sales, delivery, profitability, client satisfaction. He and his team help businesses enable growth, run better, differentiate and innovate, and get ahead of competition, while at the same time maximizing ROI and reducing risk. Tarun is extremely passionate about leadership and has been in leadership roles for several years. Now I request Mr. Tarun to start his session. Mr. Tarun, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you again. It was great to catch up a little bit just before the session. Esteemed faculty, principal, I really appreciate. It's an honor to have this opportunity, to connect back with you and also to, have the opportunity to speak to, the students. Thank you very much. When I was, so first of all, I think this is a great, I just learned that this is just the fourth or fifth, speaker series. A great initiative, absolutely the right thing to do, to bring in, and I want to thank the leadership, of the college to really bring in that aspect to the students so they can take advantage of that as well. Again, so and great way to get the alumni connected and stay connected. So thank you very much, for organizing this. I wanted to, talk to you. So, do we know how many of us are online? How many are attending this right now?
Hello.
Do we know how many participants?
Actually, on Zoom platforms, sir, there are 4 or 5 students, and there are many students on actually YouTube who are.
Oh, I see.
Living live.
Okay.
Yeah, watching by live.
Okay. Yeah. Got it. So, I thought, what better topic than leadership, to connect and share with, all of the students. I feel that, this is leadership is one of the most key, it's like a very underlying, your foundational, a very strong skill that you have to develop over the years. And if you knew this when in college, which obviously I didn't know, I understood this after several years. But and this is all my personal opinion, by the way. Whatever I'm saying is completely personal opinion from my experience. But I figured that this is the most important skill, and if you knew this ahead, you would probably, think about it more and do something more about it, and therefore, make a huge leap in your career. So I want to tell you this now so that you can actually start thinking in this direction, start working in this direction. And I'm going to make it very simple and clear for you, right? So this is a kind of a practitioner's version, if I call it, like, what I have felt and what I've seen and what I've seen work, what is important, etc. So it's all, put some of my thoughts into this. I think that if you really focus on this, you are extremely likely to save several years in your career, meaning you're going to move up sooner. And a lot of you are actually engineers. Some of you will do management studies where you will get more exposed to this. You'll probably have more opportunity to work in groups with that, but many of you may not. And therefore, but knowing this, you're going to have a great, start right from the beginning. Okay. Any questions on that? And let's make it interactive. I don't want to just make just a lecture, but I believe we have only few on Zoom directly to ask questions. Is that right?
So I'm a student. I'm there on Zoom. So in case if I have any query, I'll ask. Sir.
Okay, definitely. Okay, sounds
Yes.
good. Okay, so the first question, okay, why do we need leaders? Uh, so it is, it's kind of the world is an extremely dynamic and transformative place. Um, there's a tremendous amount of change happening in this world. So we saw, some decades back, we saw the industrial revolution. Then we saw, we've been experiencing digital revolution, and we have been hearing, and you're sensing, the next generations of revolutions. All right. Also, if you like kind of step back and observe, the product life cycles in the world have shrunk tremendously, right? So we used to use a cell phone for a few years before we made a change. Right now, we just, we want the most. I mean, there's such tremendous advancement that you kind of force yourself to go into the next version, and the life cycle the same example, cell phone, is only about 1 to 2 years right now, right? So you're constantly, so the product life cycles in general have shrunk. Like there are new things, and there's a tremendous amount of we see a constant disruption in the marketplace. Like there are new things that come into place, and then only to get so something disrupts the traditional, and then there's another thing that follows and disrupts this new thing, right? So we're going through a tremendous amount of change, right, in this world, and the various corporations, etc., are driving this change. We have seen a tremendous number of startups, so to speak, over the several years, and some of them have made it. They are. I mean, I just don't have to name them, but that they have become extremely big because they were driving a certain aspect or a need in the marketplace that was just absolutely needed. So we are seeing this tremendous amount of change in this world. Now what that has caused, so there are two aspects basically. One is, in today's marketplace, you have to constantly innovate, right? You have to understand your market, not only the various new products, the evolutions, etc., that talk about, but you have to constantly innovate, have a strong sense of the market, and constantly the corporations need to keep moving them forward, right? Be very relevant to the marketplace, be very relevant to the consumers, be relevant to the time, and always be ready for the future. What this does is it gives rise to, at multiple levels, it gives rise to the need for leadership. So basically, you need leaders to be the 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 people who are going to set the vision, the people who set the strategy, the people who drive their organizations to that particular strategy, and it happens at multiple levels. So it even may be, this whole world is creating these, massive number of projects and or programs or initiatives, and at multiple levels, leaders are absolutely needed to drive them. They act as the integrators. If you think about leader, and if you go and research any executive or leaders resume, you will find that they have certain base skills. They learned some subjects, and over the years, but they added a significant amount of they gained a significant number of skills on top of that as they went along. And that is why where they are, and it's not possible for someone to study tens and thousands of subjects. It's about how quickly you understand a subject at the high level, and how quickly are you able to understand, how quickly can you lead a team and build another set of leaders, and who will in turn build leaders and chains below them, how can you manage? How can you be intelligent for them? How can you speak to the right level? So that kind of how can you motivate, drive them, right, and challenge them to achieve the best, right? Drive, I mean, get motivate them and actually explore or exploit their potential, make them achieve what they have not achieved ever, and therefore they all as well become proud. So that's what the leadership is. My personal opinion is this is the most scarce skill in the world. Any questions on that previous one?
No, sir, not as of now.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
So let me move on to just sharing some facts from my personal experiences. And I've just put some facts here, basically that I've understood. So first of all, I think and some of these have been realized several years ago, and some this kind of incremental whatnot. And I'm going to help you understand leadership a little more as we go through the next couple of talk through the next couple of slides. But the first one, so leadership is actually situational. It's not hierarchical, which means that you cannot look to someone who's at one higher title or title above you to solve your challenges. It's you will have to be the leader in your own situation, right? Let me just give an also you take charge in a given situation, and therefore you become the leader for that situation. So as an example, if you are sitting through a meeting, let's say for an example, where there are people in the room from multiple, they are in the room from multiple levels of experience, right? They are right from like significant, they are at a very high position within the company versus someone who's like pretty new to the company or whatever. You can being the even the lowest rank in that room, you can still be a situational leader. As an example, you could actually help figure out certain things that the team wants to do and actually educate them back. And for that moment, for that period of time, you're actually giving them some, you're communicating your viewpoint to them, you're giving them guidance, you're giving them showing them the light at the end of the tunnel, whatever that might be. So that is leadership. And in one of the things I'm also trying to do here is basically I'm trying to inspiring you to practice this more, basically to understand this more and to practice this more. So it's not that don't wait for you to be someone before you start thinking as a leader. You got to start thinking as a leader now. And anyone can be a leader, as you can see on the screen. Whoever will take that ownership, will take that initiative and drive that particulars in that situation is going to be a leader. And you keep practicing this, right? It's an art. Basically, it's an art. You have to be obviously inclined to it. It's an art. You start practicing it and you start perfecting it. Things, it just continues to build. And then it shows, it builds on the work that you do. It builds on, you start getting the results. You start seeing it builds on your confidence. It builds on several other aspects. So this is absolutely it's just it's just a constant practice, and that you've got to put yourselves in, and then you keep advancing. The other interesting thing that I wanted to kind of mention in corporate life, which you will also realize, is that it's up to you, right? I mean, these days it's the world has changed from where the corporations want people to come in and help them get something done. There's so much, there's tons of work going on at any point of time. So it's extremely it's an extremely fast-paced world. It's an extremely transformative world, like I said. So, the expectations from people, therefore, in a way, is that they will take the ownership and they'll get to the end result. They will ask for what they need in order to make that happen. They will drive that consensus, etc., whatnot. So it's like, and you can't be moved to a position first where you take leadership or have the direct responsibility, but it's what you can achieve in your role without having the direct responsibility. How can you, make something happen which is not in your direct line, direct, kind, so to speak, envelope of responsibility. It's like how you achieve much beyond that, right? So you empower yourself, you start acting as a leader, you start focusing on getting things done, you start to drive initiative, and that demonstration of leadership essentially will automatically be followed by somebody talking to you about expanding your responsibilities, right? So it's like you got to get into that before you can say you start earning titles or positions as such. So I think that's the next bullet there, pretty much, which is perform as a leader, and the title will follow. So that's kind of just to share some facts, just for you to understand, just for you to absorb, how it actually works. So now I think you may have some questions in your mind that, okay, so what is it about leadership? Like what, I mean, what, and I want you to also start realizing what are the attributes of leaders typically, right? How do you identify leaders? And even today, I think in general, even, in our everyday lives, in your everyday lives, you actually sense a lot of attributes, and there are people that you would, your own peers, your own friends, that you actually end up looking up to, or you go to for advice, or you go to for guidance, etc. And that happens because because they have some leadership attributes. No, we don't, normally what I've seen is that we don't think about it that way. But actually, I want you to start thinking maybe in this direction, that it's actually all of those aspects are leadership. So, when I started thinking about, the various attributes, and I kind of, put this together, these points over the weekend, and I started to just jot down points on a page on what are the leadership attributes, and I could find so many. So obviously, the entire real estate on the screen is full, but at the but at the same time, I thought that there was some more that I may want to add, but you can just kind of, as you may be looking at the screen and trying to understand. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time breaking this down for you, and getting you to understand. Now, some of the attributes, obviously, I have written, from a perspective that, these are if the more of these attributes in a leader, the greater and the bigger that leader that is. Like, so it's like I put, a tremendous number of attributes here, but it's, you may initially start with a few and keep growing and keep adding to your own skill set. But I wanted to put this out there, especially so that you can have a great feel for what are those aspects and what exactly is leadership. So I'm explaining leadership kind of in a way through the attributes. Now, with the whole transformative world that I talked about, right? The tremendous amount of change that we are seeing, because of which number of things need to get done. We see tremendous challenges, including the challenges, that we have currently, in the world. All of these actually, need leaders, and these leaders are the ones, I just kind of, short definition from my perspective, leaders actually help us, find, the most efficient path to a ultimate win-win goal. So there are it's either in the communities in the world, it might be your customers, or and then your organization. It's a joint win-win. It's for the betterment of our communities, it's the betterment for the people in the world, it's the betterment for the organizations, etc. So leaders actually help us find those shortest paths. And there are, in anything that you may try to do, as you would imagine, there could be so many roadblocks, hurdles, challenges, and that is exactly what leaders do. They actually overcome them, right? So I think there are several aspects of leadership, and I've tried to put in this flavor here on this page. Let me just talk through some of them. So one is, leaders are, they set a vision, right? Sorry, I'm getting some audio, sorry, in between. Can you still hear me fine?
No, please continue, sir.
Yeah, okay.
So,
yes. So leaders actually set a vision, right? They set a vision and they communicate that vision to everyone, and therefore get them to become a part of the vision, right? They're very clear, they're very communicative regards to that. Leaders help us build strategies, whatever the situation might be, whatever the initiative might be, whatever the problems might be, whatever the goals that we're trying to accomplish. Leaders help us set the strategy for it. They're the ones who take charge. They're the ones who figure out. They're the ones who communicate, collaborate with a lot of people. They go across boundaries. They permeate boundaries. They do not stick into their swim lanes, so to speak, or their just area of responsibility, but they essentially go across departments. They're very cross-functional, right? And they help us. They kind of they're integrators, so to speak. They understand the situation holistically, talk to multiple people. They talk to their teams. They talk to their executives, leaders, everyone, and all of that they do, and then they figure out and they kind of help establish strategies. Leaders are high energy, right? They always have a sense of energy. They're always moving. They're in motion. They create momentum. Right? Leaders create momentum. They instill a sense of purpose. They don't just tell you what to do, but they make it very clear absolutely why we are doing what we're doing and why is it beneficial, right? So they actually, from the inside, they actually ignite you in the inside. They tell you why something needs to be done, and and therefore you believe. They connect you to the purpose, right? And that is very important. We have purpose inside us, and the purpose helps us drive, right? Leaders are absolutely clear thinkers. There's the maze of information in the very first slide that we saw. Let me just go back. There's a maze of information that requires clarity. There's there is all these complex problems in the world, etc. All of the challenges in those own projects, in anything that you may be trying to do. But leaders see through, they assimilate various pieces of data, they assess information, they assess the situation from multiple dimensions, from a standpoint of also let it, be it analytical, right, be it a subject, be it the data that goes behind it, be it human emotion attached to the situation, be it the politics of the situation, be it for that matter any aspects, all those multidimensional aspects that are associated. They start seeing through it. They make a good assessment, start seeing through it, and they create clear thinking, and they guide their teams and their leadership and their executives and bring them that vision, the clarity, the strategy, the understanding to be able to move something forward. One of the other interesting things I have seen about leaders that is that they have exponential common sense. They will just walk into a discussion and they will pretty much ask the most interesting question or the most basic question, and they will, there's going to be like, there's all this, or chaos challenges. Just come and ask the most simplest of questions and start, this whole, bring that whole outside perspective, etc. And there's just tremendous amount of common sense, and their approach is so simple. They simplify things. They make all these, complex things, seem extremely simple. They'll ask just to ask the simple right questions. Bring in a very just an absolutely exponential degree of common sense to a particular topic. Now, leaders are also critical thinkers, right? There are many situations that there's a lot happening. You have the least amount of time to make a decision and move forward, right? So, and everything comes with a deadline these days. I mean, there's obviously a deadline. It's like, we're in a very, aggressive, fast moving world, right? Where there are several corporations, everyone is pretty ambitious. They want to achieve more, right? So in that respect, your ability to think, in a pressure cooker situation, and the approach that you take is absolutely extremely important for a leader. So critical thinking skills are absolutely very important. Now, leaders also have a strong gut feel, right? They given a situation, they understand the situation very quickly, like I said, and they just have a very good gut feel. They will just give the guidance that you get from a leader would be excellent. Just the sense that they have of the situation is generally very good. You would always want to go to them for their advice and what they felt in a particular situation, because they do have that strong gut feel. Now, other attributes that and I've kind of grouped the attributes, so it's kind of a little bit easy to read, but they don't belong to a particular subject, etc. But it's just for to make it a little more if you were to consume this at a later point, etc., whatnot, just a more simple, more simplifying you to think about these attributes. So the other topics, again, which is, leaders are extremely passionate. Leaders don't do a job; they follow their passion, right? They are into the thing that they're doing, and that is something that actually, this passion surrounds the people that they work with. They are extremely passionate about what they do, and you can feel it. You can feel their passion, and when you speak with them, you can feel it in the work that you do with them, and it's a very it's something that it feels great to be around. Leaders are transformative in their thinking. They just don't they are very creative in what they think, and the things that they want to do, the expectations that they have are also extremely they're big expectations. And when you start working with a leader, at some point you will realize that what was sometimes you may think that a leader is what they're talking about to achieve is kind of sounds impossible, but leaders challenge you to think much above, right? Much above and beyond what you can achieve, and they actually help you get to achieve that, to get to that. Leaders are very, and they don't follow the typical status quo. They are very creative. They look at, take a step back. They look at multiple approaches. They challenge the status quo. Basically, they're very transformative. Leaders are very persuasive. So they understand the situations. They understand they have a good they have good emotional intelligence as well of the situation. They understand the facts, etc., whatnot, and they help us all to help others. They help others understand that particular situation, and therefore therefore help build consensus, right, so to speak. They are leaders that are extremely disciplined. You will see that they drive. They're very they're very disciplined. They're always on top of the game, and they help everyone else around them achieve, be on the top of their game in that respect. They're extremely driven, as you can imagine, right? I mean, there's a lot. So you have to believe it in yourself. Leaders believe in themselves. They are driven. They want to make things happen. They create a tremendous amount of momentum, and they rally they rally support all around them, right? So they over time become more and more confident. They are extremely confidence is a very key aspect of leadership. They are absolutely very hardworking. They do not give up. They are very they're very deep into what they're trying to get done, and they won't give up. They don't stop. They don't get exhausted. Leaders get things done. They are ambitious. They are very good negotiators in the sense that they understand the situation. They empower themselves with a lot of good information. They package that along with a tremendous number of other aspects. They basically, which would be like the whole the empathy of the in that particular situation, the emotional aspects that may be involved, the various other dimensions that are involved. So they kind of think through end to end from multiple dimensions, and they bring that, and they are good negotiators. Some of the things that on I have also already mentioned, but just quickly touching upon them. They do bring an outside perspective. They are collective experience. They are very valuable in any discussion. They bring very key points to a discussion where you may think that you already have tremendous number of experts, and they have the ability to bring a very rational mindset, very um, they're very again, the high degree of common sense. They bring very tremendous, very extremely good logic into those discussions. And some of the things that I've kind of maybe touched upon before, they assess a situation very quickly. If you have a crisis, if you have a challenge, right, they will step into that situation. They will understand it. They will ask the right questions, collect the right, and make a quick, very good quick assessment of the situation. It may be a situation, it may be a major challenge, it may be a major initiative, something that is not working, something that is gone, something that has ran into some issues, major roadblocks, or something which is in or absolutely is off track, etc. Right? So they come in and assess those situations quickly. They ask those great questions. They ask those they ask a lot of great questions that helps them identify the situation, and helps them identify they get to the right root causes. So one of the things I want to kind of say here is that you cannot solve a problem until you've understood it. And I'm sure as engineers, you understand this, that you were doing this, you part of your curriculum, you study, you have various I think subjects where you're solving, you have to do an illustrative, solving a problem which has got equations and mathematics associated with it. So you cannot really, unless you've understood the problem statement and what what that you have to get to, you cannot solve it, right? So it's extremely important, one, to understand the problem very well. Second, to get to the root cause, if it's a blocker or an issue or whatever, to actually get to the root cause and then fix the root cause, right? So they are extremely good at this basic thing that I just said. They're extremely good at operating in that particular manner, and they are extremely analytical, right? The way they ask, the way they approach the question, the method they put to the madness, a very good analytical approach, and they also combine it with data. So the questions are asked regards to when you look at things from a data perspective, are you putting a lot of energy behind solving something that is only 1% of the total goal, or are you focusing on think Pareto charts? I don't know if you're familiar, but think but are you focusing on the biggest driver to the issue, the one that has the most, the one that contributes the most to the problem, or contributes the most to driving the initiative forward, or getting that project done, or your meeting your, even when you design your program or project or whatever that might be, are you working on achieving, is your program designed to first get to the largest contributor, that aspect of it sooner. So they're very data driven in the way that they approach, and it's they use data. I think again, data is a tremendously underutilized approach. I feel there's been, I mean, tremendous, but data tells us a lot, and we should empower ourselves with data, and therefore to be able to kind of synthesize something and understand something well, and make sure we are addressing the most important factors first before the others, so that you can get a markable difference in the outcome. So data is very important. Leaders use data. The other aspects that I wanted to kind of mention is that leaders, they there's a new thing that is happening, there's a crisis, there's a big problem, there's the most important project that is going on, whatever, and at multiple levels, leaders will take initiative, right? They will ask to do a particular thing. They want to get into that, and they also take charge of the situation. And when I say charge, I mean, I've said several other things, but they are the ones who want to drive it, the ones that start putting the things together, start collating things together, act as an integrator of various departments, etc., and bring the teams together to make the ultimate win-win goal happen. So, and it takes nothing to take charge. You can take charge in your situations. Today, you may be organizing a college festival. It could be anything as such, any topic, whatnot. You can definitely take that initiative, take charge. Like I said, a leader rises to the occasion. When there's a challenge problem, they will step up, right? They won't it's just inside of them. You have to start doing this. Therefore, what happens is when you take charge, when you handle the greatest challenges, you are the ones who face all the blockers. Your teams are the ones who face all those blockers, and then you're gaining that exponential experience in addressing those challenges, and therefore you are rising. And leaders do that. They rise to the occasion. They don't take a step back. They are always moving forward. They are in the thick of things, and therefore they are the most precious assets that an organization can have. Like similarly, I think in times of adversity, these are the people you see. They are making things happen. They're driving. They're helping everyone in their problems. They're helping get better. They're very decisive, basically. So they assess all this information, etc., and they make quick decisions. They make good decisions, and they help us move forward. Right? They focus on any blockers, issues, etc., whatnot, and the biggest hurdles. They focus on getting them out of the way, so that we can keep moving forward. All right. Some of the other attributes, and it's kind of interesting, as you work with a large number of people, large groups, these things kind of are just natural. They happen, but everyone just looks to a leader usually will kind of address that, take care of that. They're constantly looking for what's a blocker, right? We have this concepts of, right, okay, what's your blocker, right? We're in an agile world. We have to remove blockers consistently. The other aspects I want to talk about is leaders are extremely responsible. They're extremely dependable. They have a high say-do ratio. They do what they say. They have tremendous resolve, right? When things happen, there's bad news, there's things that happen that is out of control. Remember, not everything is in our control. There are situations in in which you don't control everything. It's you are governed by some of the outside factors, etc., whatnot. Things happen, right? Things happen, but in that situation, having a high resolve and staying determined is extremely important. That's what kind of leaders bring. They help us focus, right? They help us remain on path. They help us, adapt. They help us be agile, and they help us not give up. They keep us motivated, right? They're extremely focused. They're very, very focused on their goals. They drive the everyone around them and help maintain that particular focus. They're extremely responsive. You can reach out to them. They will usually are very responsive. They may be extremely busy, but they are very responsive. Now also leaders are extremely assertive. Basically, you won't see, leaders will not make excuses. They always, when something has gone wrong, they try to understand the situation. They figure out what to, they will accept full responsibility for whatever was, whatever they were responsible for. They accept full responsibility. They do not make any excuses. They have a very high say-do ratio. Leaders are are excellent coaches, mentors, not only to their direct teams, but in general, they will guide anyone. When someone comes to them for advice, input, they will certainly provide that. They, the the people, there's a concept that I just want to kind of mention here, which is there's always a soft organization, right? There is a hard organization, which is, you have if you look at an org chart, there are various people in various roles. But what is not in the org chart is a soft organization. So when you have a problem, you may actually have, as an individual, as a, within an organization, you may actually go and talk to someone else, because you feel that you can get that advice. You don't necessarily always have to leverage your hard organization, which is the defined organization. You may leverage, get input, guidance. So these coaches, mentors that you would go to, and they'll give you that guidance. You may actually go and formally get, whatever you have learned and understood. You may go and take buy-ins from the formal organization. But there's a soft organization that kind of exists. It's in everyone's mind and who they want to go to, etc. So they usually have a tendency to go towards, these great leaders who are good coaches and mentors. Right now, leaders help us, build high performing teams. They empower their teams to make decisions. They democratize decision making, and this is absolutely necessary because, like I said, we are in a very, very fast, fast transforming and disruptive world. So therefore, the number of decisions that you can make at any time, you need to be able to find a way to multiply that. You have to have that, you have to keep the momentum, have the multiplier effect, and therefore you empower your teams. You guide them to think like leaders. You guide them to, make their own decisions, and maybe bounce it off with you if till the point that they reach that. But you definitely have to empower your teams to run with that kind of, velocity, to create that velocity, the momentum, the speed that is needed, right? And leaders will always set very high standards for their teams, right? For the people around them. They have great expectation. You walk into and these are multidimensional, whatever it may be, right? They'll always set high expectations that everybody work towards, achieving, and they actually help them get there. They act as quarterbacks for their teams. They act as a quarterback, so that, and help them achieve much, much, much beyond their potential. So they not only set high standards, but they actually, I feel that the reason leaders set high standards is because they know it's achievable. Frankly, it's achievable, and that's why they set the standards. They are very pragmatic, by the way. So, and I said that they have an extremely, great rational, exponential common sense. So they don't set out to achieve or set a target that is not achievable. They set a target which they feel is definitely achievable, and they help their teams realize that, and they help their teams, their teams feel proud of what they achieve, right? And they themselves start, becoming leaders. They start observing that. So that's the empowering aspect, etc., that I talked about. So so that's what they do. They set standards which are definitely achievable, and they're extremely fair and meritocratic. So it's just simple. It's just simple, black and white. Everybody gets what they deserve, right? The teams around you know it. They're extremely fair in their evaluation of the situations, how they respond to a situation, how they support, what they think of people around them, etc., whatnot. They're extremely fair in what they think about their teams, how they measure them against results, comparatively, etc., whatnot. They're extremely fair about that. uh, Leaders always motivate you, they inspire you. With leaders, when you are around leaders, you are not doing a job, you are extremely, you really get involved. They that sense of purpose, right? The reason why you should be doing that, it's you feel very motivated. You are ignited from the inside. They ignite you, basically. That's what leaders do. So they're very motivated, they're inspiring you. And this is not just about people who are directly reporting to a leader in general or whatever it is. It's not that. It could be a extremely matrix organization. It's levels above and levels down. You could be in a discussion, you could see what they're doing, and they could act as an inspiration upwards, downwards, in all directions, sideways, etc., whatnot, right? And they motivate everyone to each more. They're also very empathetic. So they understand the situations, and they bring empathy, right? They understand how to human emotion. They understand how to address that. They have the right conversation. Again, this is another very key aspect, is we have to work. We have to know how to work very well with people, right? Leaders, always take end-to-end ownership, right? They first of all understand what end-to-end means. So taking something all the way from the start to the end till it's completely done, closed, finalized. A lot of times what happens is things get done 90% and they get reported as 90%, 95%, but it's not done. So, I always say this, it's not done till it's done. So it's the end-to-end ownership of very high degree, right? Get it to conclusion, close the topic, get it done, basically, right? Leaders permeate boundaries. So I think I talked about the cross-functional aspect. So leaders will not stay just in their swim lane. They understand the situation holistically. They go across. They talk to people. They become a key player in terms of helping the others, the whole cross-functional group, gaining that perspective, driving it driving it for the whole organization, as a whole, etc. So they permeate boundaries. They don't stop at this is my area of responsibility and I'm just going to stick to that. So this is the other part of the problem, that you cannot solve a problem till you've understood it completely. And the way the project, program, or situation or initiative that you're driving, how it connects to the rest of the pieces, right? We're in an interconnected world. So you can't just stay in your swim lane. You have to know the endpoints and the touch points and the things that you're touching, how all of the moving parts before you can right do tremendous amount of justice as a leader. So they just normally permeate boundaries, and they consistently are going over and beyond, as you can expect. Now they also create a very high degree of collaboration. They're very collaborative in nature, and they create a very high degree of collaboration. And they they generally build a good network. They are so to speak, for in the various things that they're trying to do. Like I said, they go across boundaries, etc., whatnot. So therefore they are well aware. They know who are the people to go to, etc., who to talk to in a particular situation, etc., or They are very good at figuring it out, and by nature of that, they start building and creating a network. They're also very politically savvy. So in situations where there are political challenges, they will, just like any other hurdles, they will understand the situation, and they will find a way, and they'll find a way to get things done, which are essentially win-win, right? There's no, personal agendas or whatnot, etc. But essentially it is to understand the situation, to understand what's happening, what's the motive behind what the challenges are, and find that path, right? So what I did here is I just, I explained leadership to you through these various attributes. The more the attributes, more of these attributes in a leader, and by the way, these are not the full set, right? There are more. I just, this is what I put in here, but there are definitely more. But the more qualities or the more attributes that a leader has, or the leader works on developing, are the ones are and the greater the leader, right? It's that. So it's not that there are certain attributes that someone starts with and they keep working on building more, but the more of these that you have, the greater, the bigger, the stronger, right, the more seasoned leader you will be, right? So any questions here?
Yeah, sir, I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
According to you, what will be the qualities that a leader shouldn't have?
Leader shouldn't have?
Yeah.
Qualities that a leader shouldn't have. So there are. So I would. So we basically. Yes. So I think take any of these and just think of the opposite. So those are those situations, right? So in my perspective, a leader has to be high energy. So they always have to have that, sense of, that sense of urgency, etc., whatnot. So the opposite is true. A leader cannot not have a sense of energy, or a leader cannot not be high energy. If that helps. And a leader cannot, I think they cannot give up in a situation. The leaders are there to run through challenges. A
Yes.
leader cannot point through a blocker and say, I cannot get past this, but rather should be focusing on finding a way on how to address that blocker, finding a way outside of that. And this, it's the creative thinking, the critical thinking, etc., whatnot.
Yes, sir.
They have to be absolutely fair. They cannot be unfair, because the people, the peers, the executives, the leaders, etc., up below are, I think everybody is in a way being measured, being measured. So this is what basically happens, is because you asked that question. When you're constantly making an impression of yourself. Everybody is in a way observing you in the groups that you work with as students or in corporations. So you carry your own personal brand, right? So you cannot do anything that damages your brand, if I may say it that way. So you got to be very fair. As a leader, you have to be very fair in the situation. You will have people that you work with maybe for several years, but if that's the problem, I think you got to address it.
Yes. Thank you.
Yep, that's a great question. Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Yes.
as a leader, always get criticized. So, how to get over of it and how to convince them? Like how?
Yeah. So in anything that you're trying to do, criticism is given. For a leader, criticism is in their stride. You see, they know they will be criticized. Criticize is not a blocker for them. So the way that they approach things or the way that they work is in itself to avoid any criticism. I mean, if you're working with the right data points, right? If you're working, you have the right analytical aspect. So goes, it goes against persuasion, right? So if you have the right information, you present it in the right manner, you're bringing in the right emotional, intelligence into, or emotional quotient, as we call it, into that aspect. And then you're presenting the information, you have your right argument, right? You have the right analysis and approach, or a strategy that you've created. There's going to be a reason behind it, right? And
Okay.
you will be able to, as a leader, you'll be able to so for a leader, that's just natural, right? They always are dealing with criticism, blockers, etc. That's just natural. It's just part
Okay.
of life. But you don't look at it as criticism. You look at it as, so, and self, you actually self analyze your situation. You figure out where the problems are. So they are always constantly, synthesizing, analyzing the situation or themselves on what they could have done better, right? They're their own best critics, and they're always finding this way. So they will find a way, but they're very driven. Like we said, they're very high resolve. So they will get past it, but they may have to, from a short-term perspective, yes, they have to deal with criticism. Absolutely. That's the way to learn. So here is how I think about it. Another way of think about it. If you have a critic, somebody is doing you a huge favor, because somebody is telling you maybe what you're not good at, right? So that is information. That is also great piece of information for you to understand. And and then figure out, is it right? Then no, you just need to go convince. If it's wrong, go convince. Just convince them. If it's right, they have given you some feedback in your life to work on and improve on, and that's what leaders do.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Any more questions on this? Please absolutely feel free to ask. This is for you to benefit from. So yes, can I move to the next one?
Yes, I think no questions, sir. Please move. Please continue, sir. Okay.
Yes. So this was just to give you an articulation or a sense of what leadership is. Now, by the way, in your today's life, you may already be practicing some. It's just that maybe you would have start now correlating that to that's a leadership skill, right? I'm sure, in college there are various situations. I mean, I'll just kind of share with you in your own. There are people that you go to get advice, to get guidance, to help you see, right, to help you understand the situation, etc. Essentially, you're leaning on somebody in that particular moment for some leadership, right? In projects that you might be doing, in something else that you might be trying to do, there is somebody who takes ownership in organizing something, and in dealing with, so to speak, the tremendous number of blockers, criticism, challenges, etc. They take on themselves, right? Which is the initiative aspect. So there are leaders even today within within your institution, in wherever you may be living, in your social circles, etc. And you kind of, you start, this is just a recognition. It's kind of a reminder, of some of these things that exist, right? If that makes sense. Okay. So now, one of the things I just thought, we're all engineers. I'm an engineer myself, and we like simplicity, like we like the equations, right? So I thought, what if I just figure out a simple career formula for you as you're working into, getting into the next phases of your career, start, your corporate journeys, or businesses, or whatever that you may have in mind for yourself for the future. Right? What is that simple career formula? How can we take, this? So this is my take into into making things simple for you, and this is my take into what I have understood from from my years and from what I have lived and from what I understand and I have felt uh, that this is what is a simple career formula. So you see delta in every aspect of the skill, of these skills that I've listed, or skills or attributes or whatever they are. But the delta means the difference. So if we take your entire class, and then everybody's in the world would have gone and got to a certain place eventually. When you meet them, 25 years later, 30 years later, these are the attributes that you will find has how they have driven their career. So there are what I want to throw light on here is that there are certain aspects that are heavily ignored, and I just wanted to make sure that as you want to, before you start your career, you knew this, right? In my this is an equation that I firmly believe in. I just came up with this last night when I was putting together this slide, but I just kind of put that together so that I simplify for you, right, what you should be working on, what should be your focus, right? What is that equation? And each of that parameters have weight. They may have different weights, but they are the contributors that come together to define your career and what you may achieve. So one is technical knowledge, which you're already in your space. It'll be interesting that even if after you've passed out of college, you will still be learning a lot of new technical stuff. You may choose different paths, careers, whatnot, right? So there will always be the technical knowledge, which is the core subject, the core thing that you're trying to work on. So that how much technical knowledge you have matters. Very important, right? Extremely important. So there's definitely matters, but I believe you're doing a lot right now in that department already, right? The other is your IQ in general, right? Which is how good you are, and you challenge yourself, keep testing your IQ, keep it at the best, whatnot. So, but this is something that you have, which you will continue to, but you have this, right? How great you are at in analyzing a situation, how great you are at math, solving a problem, or figuring it out, etc., whatnot. So that IQ exists, right? Intelligence. The second is the emotional intelligence, right? EQ, another important one, which you will probably not focus on now, but I want you to be aware of this as well. It's a very important parameter. You need to understand, how to increase, what is EQ, how to increase EQ. The next aspect is personality, right? You, as you progress in your career, which and important for you to know now is that personality is very important. So you have to work on building your personality, right? So it's actually amazing with some people already have great personalities for however that, and how it's interesting how people build personalities over the years, right, as well. So but knowing about this, working on this is extremely important. The other is, which is important in is political intellect, right? How you understand a situation, how you navigate the environment, how you navigate the challenges in your corporate life, business life, or whatever that might be. This is a very important aspect as well. Now some of these are interconnected in a way, right, as well. So the other is confidence. So I feel that as you achieve more, as you solve more problems, as you step into more, as you take charge, as you work towards an aggressive goal, every time you work to get that thing done, and the hard work you put in behind it, etc., whatnot, constantly keeps increasing your confidence. It'll keep going up. There are going to be situations where you'll be hit, but then you have to have that high resolve, work towards it, get back. So I'm not saying you'll be super confident every day, but but confidence is important because it comes out the way you interact with people, the way you present an argument, etc., the way you talk to people, the way you drive your teams, the way you talk to your executives, etc. Confidence is extremely important. The next one is communication, right? So communication is, as you can imagine, is important because that's the way you tell people what you're thinking. That's the way you communicate your clear thinking. That's the way you communicate to the various groups. That's the way you give guidance, to people, and that's the way you in generally converse. They have to be very, very understanding of you. You will something that you should continue to focus on in building. It's very important. It's an extremely important skill which is needed, like any day, right? The next aspects are energy. You have to have high energy, but it's also kind of connected that you are passionate about what you're interested in. So find your interest, align yourself to your interest, because when you align yourself to your interest, you will have high energy. It's kind of an automatic thing that happens within. At the same time, your interest will change over time. So, but work towards that, right? And in anything that you do, energy is extremely important. You have to be performing. You have to be on top of your game, right? There's some of these, as you can see, some of these you don't need any preparation. You can have high energy at any point in time, right? Some of these are not skills that you develop. Like high energy you can have like immediately. As an example, similarly with hard work, you have to put in hard work. Bottom line, a lot of times we see people and we tend to forget. We see big names in the news, and we tend to forget the hard work that they put in to get there. So nothing happens without hard work. So the amount of hard work that you put in is going to create results, right? So hard work, I always say this, hard work always pays off. It may not pay you off immediately, but it will pay off in the future, right? Because a situation will come to you where you will figure out that you've already done this kind of work. It just relates to it. The next one I want to mention is networking, right? The way you connect with the number of people that you get to know, the number of people that you connect with, the number of people that you the number of people that you just constantly in your as you continue to evolve in your life and your career matters. Networking matters. You have to network. It's one of the most interesting things I'll tell you is that you will usually, many corporate careers are made out of networks. It's like people work with people, right? People remember people, they work with people. So if you are a strong leader, a lot of people take note. So I think I said in one of the pages that if you're a strong leader and you practice leadership and you're taking charge, you are putting yourself, you're standing up and rising to occasions, there are people who are going to make note of you. They not only make note of you for that particular moment, but they're making note of you for the future. And when a situation arises, you will be, so that so network, and then staying connected with those people, right? Networking is extremely important, right? And the next one is all the various things that you saw in the previous page, right? The various things, and some of them are the EQ aspect of it, etc. Some of those things were built into the previous page, but you saw the tremendous number of leadership skills, right? That it's kind of like you start embarking on it, and then you slowly keep adding more. You constantly keep adding more, right? But starting your journey into that and imbibing these leadership skills in yourself is going to catapult your career. So that's why the biggest focus of this particular session, which I feel is probably the most least talked about topic, is leadership, and that's why this is something. So I wanted to focus on for your discussion and share my experiences with you, so you can leverage this in your life. And I can say that you should with this whatever I just said, if and it may take some time to absorb, but I think you will gain number of years in your career if you practice or whatever I said. So leadership skills are tremendously important. There are very few. There is just the utmost scarcity of leaders in this world. Leaders are constantly searching for more leaders because they need them, and we are constantly developing new leaders. So you are going to be a very precious commodity, if I may, maybe use the word. You're going to be very precious if you are a leader, because you will because you will always be in demand. So that's what I had to share with you today. I'm happy to take any questions.
So I have a question.
Sure.
What made you realize that you could be a leader, and what were the challenges you faced through it?
What made me realize I was a leader? Um, I I think it was this made there were certain aspects when we saw the page. There were certain aspects that we saw. There were few things that I was always taking initiative. I was always jumping into the challenges, etc. And I found that very interesting. I found it to I started to enjoy that. I love to get my hands in the worst situations, and I love to figure those things out and fix it, right? It's kind of something that came about. It was just I touched on something, did something, and I started to realize within myself that this is what I love to do. So but at the same time, I was not introduced to the topic as such very early in my career. I learned this through my experience, and I figured out how important. And also, it's about observing various other leaders. I was inspired by some of the leaders that I worked with, some of the leaders, some of them who guided me. And thanks to all of them, with I've learned from several leaders. And it's just the tremendous amount of respect that I had when I worked with the leader. The thing that I always found that the leaders ignited ignited the fire within me and whatnot, etc. So those are the things that helped me start. I kind of drew me into that, and I started to keep getting into it, explore and get into it more and more. And this is what I love to do, right?
Thank you, sir.
So I have few questions regarding
Yes.
COVID-19 situation and combining that
Okay.
situation with leadership, what corporates have done and what, as a normal human being, we expect corporates to do. So as we read in newspapers and current affairs that many corporates have donated XYZ amount for CSR activity for COVID-19 situation, that particular thing does represent leadership, sir. But when we also read about the downsizing thing happening in corporates during this situation, like recently HCL removed few employees. Reliance also, they have contributed a lot, but at the back end, all companies are cutting down on employees. Can we say that companies would have focused on that as well, to consider the EQ part we were talking about, emotional quotient part we were talking, to consider that?
Okay. And your question is what? Your question is about when you combine. You said you combine the COVID situation to the current situation.
Yes, sir, about companies.
So you're talking about corporate responsibility these days based on the COVID
Yes, sir.
situation? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I understand. So I'm going to give you a very capitalist answer on this. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So because I'm very opinionated, but I'll share with you. But also you don't understand there are. So let's just see. We are in a world of we are in a capitalist world. We are businesses. So just forget COVID for a moment. Okay. For the moment, just ignore COVID. But there are a number of companies that are doing that have had their challenges irrespective of that, right? See, the company is in a different business situation at a point in time. they have to respond to the business situation as well. They have to do what they have to do. Like you said, they definitely see, every organization is going to have some corporate social responsibility, absolutely. But at the same time, we are a business. Everybody is a business, and all businesses have to be, they have to be, I would say, what is the word? What I'm trying to find? In a way, they have to be like, valid. I mean, so as an example today, like, travel. Okay, the travel industry unfortunately can't fly any airplanes, or many cannot fly airplanes, right? So what can, this is an outside factor that has affected them, but they have to survive in this environment. So that, so number one, they need to do two things. They need to rethink how they'll do business in the new normal, as you may call it. So that, how can they repurpose what they have? So that's another, right? While you're in this situation, you need to figure out the repurpose strategy. And then if things do get back to normal, whatever that the new normal may be, whatever the things go back to normal, then you go back to the way you were before. But you got to figure out at this point of time, the various leadership, and they are doing the tough job, by the way. They have the tough job to do. The leaders are working extremely hard at it, I would imagine. We need more leaders probably to do that work. But they are really figuring out how to, what is their refined strategy, because this happened like all of a sudden, right? There was no warning. There was not like, you knew a few years before that, you need to innovate or do this thing different. It's a situation. So it's a response to a situation. So the fact is that, we have to allow that to happen, right? So, the situation. So, but everybody is trying their best. Now, having said all of that, the corporations are figuring out their best in this situation. So remember one thing, okay? Talent is something that nobody wants to lose, right? Because there are certain, companies they are essentially built on their talent, right? Not every company is a product company and this and that, etc. So they don't want to lose that. But you are going to have these temporary situations in which, you have to do what you have to do for the moment while you survive. While you can, but they're figuring out their best in the fastest possible way. They're figuring out how to, find the alternate strategy, how to go to the market in different ways, etc. Whatnot. So they're accelerating a lot of things that may not be something that they would have otherwise have to do. But we have to also, understand that that's just the reality of things. We have to understand that a business has to be viable to exist. If a business is not viable, then it is going to affect everyone else, right? So so there's an aggressive path towards getting to the new models, the new businesses, the whatever that need to be done. But in the meantime, we are going to see some issues, unfortunately. That's just the reality of life that happens. We saw there are going to be these economic turns that will come. And here's what I can tell you though. Each one of ourselves it's a meritocratic world. We have to be, we have to work hard. We have to be on the top of our game. We have to do well. We have to be whatever. So if whatever the situation happens, if you are the last person standing, you deserve to be standing. You should work towards achieving that, is the guidance that I can tell you, right? That's really, I'm extremely, this is just the reality of things. It's you own your brand. You do what you have to. There are going to be these what can I say, these factors and downturns. Things will come and go, etc. whatnot. But I mean, that's just bound to happen. It's just part of life, frankly.
Yes.
So I would say, we should not feel this, we should not be disappointed or discouraged by these things. These things have to happen in life. By the way, the people who, you will, adversity, it's interesting. Adversity gives rise to great leaders, right? So, so go for it. I mean, unfortunately, I think that's just the reality of life. They will happen. There will be all these cycles, right? I think another way, if I can say it, no one complained when the stock market multiplied by 10 times. Everybody was happy, right? But there are some who prepared for that situation. You have to be prepared because something can happen. So you got to always, think that, what are your risks, right? How you understand and assess and manage risk is also important. Anything can happen. I mean, anything can happen, but you have to have some preparedness. You have to be prepared for something that you have not seen, as well. So I think that's kind of my, I would more encourage. This is the right time for people to actually reincarnate themselves, start focusing on their passions, learn something that they never had a chance to learn before, and come back really strong. That's my thought, my personal
Yes.
opinion.
So one more question. Sorry, sir.
Sorry for the long answer.
No, sir. No, it was perfect. It was perfect. So one last question. You have been in the corporate world for more than 20 years, and you have this experience of 20 plus years, which is appreciable in itself, sir. So whom do you consider a leader in today's corporate world?
Who do meaning consider a leader in terms of
A name. Who do you consider as
names?
a names?
As names? Yes.
Yes, a leader basically who is not only focused on capital gains, but also considered about his people and employees, someone like that.
Okay. So your question is about, you want me to name some corporations in general or name people?
Name people, sir, whom you consider as leaders, true leaders.
So, so I'll say, so, you can, we follow some leaders, we read about them, we hear about them, but, we've not worked closely with them, right? So there's obviously, that aspect of it in general, but there you can certainly feel the, energy, passion, etc., whatnot, through several leaders. So I'll mention maybe, some of the, I have the inspiration from, or I've heard them talk. Back in time, I used to do reading and understand, and I try to do or learn as much. But, there are some books that I had read, or whatever, I think. So one of the, I think, so there are several leaders that I've worked with. So I think I learned tremendously from the leaders that I worked with. And there are so many names right now, but they all know, they all know that. But in general, if you talk about the, industry in general, and the world and the marketplace, right, I would maybe, there are certain companies that stand out. One company that I have a tremendous respect for, I would say, is Tesla, because I feel that Elon Musk figured out, he came into a world, the automotive world, which was largely governed by, it was this is a very, it's a massive industry, which, and to come in from a perspective to challenge that industry, to build an electric car, and to to take on that challenge, and to build it, to also not just build an electric car, but to work towards building the best car, right, is I think phenomenal. And I think he has got some multifaceted innovation. So we know, right? I mean, we know, SpaceX. Again, they just challenge the norm, and tremendous things in getting them done. I mean, they're advancing the whole solar industry, right? They're advancing, the way transportation in the future. So it's just very kind of very breakthrough ideas, I would say, bringing very breakthrough ideas and then driving a company, and and he from what I've understood, he significantly invested in his own company, a lot by himself in order when he had those challenges. So I think that's one name that I can say from where I am right now, of somebody who's done, who's just tremendously changed. And I think the carbon footprint from a it has helped the carbon footprint, because environmentally, we are so much better. In the space world, he's obviously saved. He's figured out how to bring rockets back, whatnot. So there's a significant amount of money savings that it is. And in general, I think he's working to make lives better, right, for people. So I think that's the name that comes to me.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Hello. Hello, Shubhangi, Anushka, do you have any question?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
Okay. So we should move on now.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think we
Thank
went over a little bit, so I apologize for.
No, no, sir. It was very informative and very interactive also. Thank you.
Yeah.
So thank you, Tarun sir. Thank you for joining us. Your talk was very informative and gave insights on leadership. You spoke on necessary skill sets the graduate should have to be a successful leader, and dwelled on various attributes of a leader. And of course, the career formula that you spelled for us all. Thank you very much. Now, I request Professor Nikhil to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir. It's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion to our distinguished alumna and today's speaker, Mr. Tarun Ochani, and all our participants. Mr. Tarun Ochani has given a great and excellent wide coverage over the topic leadership. Your words of experience and encouragement will inspire students to improve their leadership qualities and to become a better leader for tomorrow. Then I would like to thank MCT's RGIT, our Honorable Principal, Dr. Sanjay Bokade, Engineering, participants for facing this event. Thank you all and have a nice day and be a part of our upcoming alumni series. Finally, it's time to end the section. So may I request the technical team to end the webinar. Thank you all once again.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Really, it was an honor. Really appreciate